A normal man sits at a piano for the first time in his life. He has never played professionally, never practiced for years, never performed on stage. But when scientists scan his brain after a few days of mental rehearsal, something shocking appears on the screen. The exact same parts of his brain begin changing, as if he had physically practiced for hours. Not imagined practice. Actual, physical brain change. And that discovery completely changed the way neuroscientists understand manifestation, identity, and human potential. Because what they found was terrifyingly simple. Your brain does not fully distinguish between a vividly rehearsed experience and a real one. Which means most people are not failing because they lack talent. They are failing because they are rehearsing the wrong identity every single day. In 1995, at Harvard Medical School, neuroscientist Dr. Alvaro Pascals-Leone conducted one of the most fascinating neuroplasticity experiments ever recorded. He divided participants into two groups. The first group physically practiced piano exercises every day. The second group never touched a piano. They simply sat quietly and mentally rehearsed the exact finger movements inside their minds. No physical movement, no actual piano, just visualization. After 5 days, researchers scanned both groups using brain imaging technology. And the result stunned everyone. The participants who only visualized the piano practice showed almost the same cortical brain changes as the people who physically practiced. Think about what that means. Their brains physically rewired themselves through thought alone. That is neuroplasticity. And this is where identity-shifting manifestation becomes real science instead of internet motivation. Because your brain is constantly remodeling itself based on what you repeatedly think, feel, imagine, and emotionally rehearse. Most people think manifestation is magic. It's not. Manifestation is neural conditioning. Your brain is always asking one question: what identity should I optimize for? And whatever identity you repeatedly rehearse, your nervous system begins building around it. Now here's the dangerous part. Most people are unconsciously rehearsing failure every day. They wake up stressed. They replay old memories. They repeat the same fears. They imagine worst-case scenarios. They mentally practice rejection, anxiety, struggle, and self-doubt over and over again. And eventually, those thoughts stop being temporary emotions. They become physical neural pathways. In neuroscience, this is connected to something called Hebbian learning, a principle discovered by psychologist Donald Head in 1949. His famous discovery was simple. Neurons that fire together wire together, meaning the more often certain thoughts and emotions repeat together, the stronger those brain circuits become. This is why negative thinking feels automatic after years, because your brain has literally built a highway around it. And this is exactly why traditional manifestation often fails. People visualize success for 5 minutes, but spend the other 20 hours rehearsing stress, limitation, and failure. The subconscious mind listens to repetition, not wishful thinking. Now here's where it gets even more interesting. In the early 2000s, researchers at University College London discovered something called synaptic pruning. Your brain constantly removes unused neural pathways to save energy. The thoughts you stop feeding begin weakening. The thoughts you repeatedly reinforce begin strengthening. Which means your personality is not fixed. Your confidence is not fixed. Even your identity is not fixed. Your brain is physically deleting and rebuilding itself every day. And once you understand that, manifestation changes completely. Because now manifestation is no longer about hoping. It becomes identity-shifting manifestation. A process of teaching your brain to emotionally accept a new version of yourself until it becomes neurologically familiar. This is why successful athletes obsess over visualization. In 2008, neuroscientists studying Olympic athletes discovered that mental rehearsal activated many of the same motor circuits as physical training. Athletes were mentally practicing victory before their bodies ever experienced it. Why? Because the brain learns through repetition and emotional intensity, not just physical action. Now pause for a second and think about your own life. What identity are you rehearsing every day? Because your brain is listening. Every thought is a command. Every emotional reaction is a signal. Every repeated fear is programming. And eventually, your nervous system starts organizing reality around that identity. That's why some people unconsciously manifest struggles over and over again. Not because the universe hates them, but because their nervous system has normalized struggle as familiar. This is where the reticular activating system also enters the picture. Your RAS acts like a biological filter. It scans millions of pieces of information every second and only shows you what matches your dominant identity. If you repeatedly identify as unsuccessful, your brain filters out opportunities that contradict that story. But when you begin rewiring your identity, something strange starts happening. You suddenly notice opportunities, connections, ideas, solutions, confidence, possibilities that were always there, but previously invisible to your nervous system. This is why identity shifting manifestation is not just psychological, it becomes physical. Now let's talk about how to actually rewire your brain using scientific visualization methods. The first step is identity awareness. You cannot rewire a pattern you refuse to notice. Most people are operating from hidden subconscious labels like, I'm not confident, I'm bad with money, I always fail, I'm not attractive enough. And the problem is, they repeat these thoughts so often that the brain stops questioning them. The identity becomes automatic. So start paying attention to your internal language, because every repeated sentence is either building or weakening neural pathways. Your thoughts are not harmless, they are instructions. And before we continue, comment below, new identity activated. And if this video is already changing the way you see reality, make sure to like, share, and subscribe. Now, the second step is scientific visualization. This is where most people make mistakes. Visualization is not daydreaming. It is a neural rehearsal. You must make the future emotionally and sensorially real. In 2014, neuroscientists studying mental imagery found that vivid visualization activates emotional and sensory regions of the brain far more effectively than vague imagination. So don't just picture success like a movie. Feel it like a memory. If your goal is financial success, don't simply imagine money. Feel the weight of your future car door. Hear the sound of your office. Feel the cold glass table beneath your hand. Smell the leather seats. Hear people congratulating you. Why? Because sensory detail increases neural firing, and stronger neural firing accelerates neuroplastic change. Your brain starts saying, this experience feels real. And once the brain accepts something emotionally, behavior begins shifting automatically. The third step is emotional repetition. One powerful visualization session means nothing without repetition. Remember Hebb's rule: neurons that fire together, wire together. This means repetition is the bridge between imagination and identity. The brain changes through consistency, not intensity alone. This is why successful people often repeat affirmations, routines, and rituals obsessively. Not because they are trying to convince the universe, they are conditioning their nervous system. Bruce Lee once said, "Don't speak negatively about yourself, even as a joke."
Don't speak negatively about yourself, even as a joke. Your body doesn't know the difference. Words are energy and they cast spells. That's why it's called spelling. Change the way you speak about yourself and you can change your life.
Your body does not know the difference. And neuroscience now supports that idea. Because repeated emotional thoughts physically influence neural architecture. Your brain is always adapting to the emotional environment you create internally. The fourth step is behavioral proof. This is where identity shifting manifestation becomes real. Because eventually, the brain needs evidence. Small actions matter more than giant motivation spikes. If your new identity is confidence, speak up more. If your new identity is discipline, keep small promises to yourself daily. If your new identity is abundance, stop behaving like someone who expects failure. Your actions signal reality to the nervous system, and every completed action reinforces the new identity circuit. Over time, the new behavior stops feeling forced. It becomes natural. This is called neuroplastic adaptation. The brain literally automates the identity you repeat most consistently. Now here's the truth most people never realize. You are already manifesting. Right now, your current life is the result of repeated thoughts, emotional conditioning, habits, beliefs, and identity patterns. The only difference is whether that programming is intentional or unconscious. And this is why some people completely transform their lives within a few years, or even within a few months. They stop reinforcing the old identity. They stop emotionally rehearsing failure. And they begin rewiring their nervous system around a completely different version of themselves. At first it feels fake. Then it feels uncomfortable. Then it feels possible. Then eventually, it feels normal. And once something feels normal to the nervous system, the brain stops resisting it. That's when your reality starts shifting faster. Because manifestation is not about forcing the universe. It's about removing internal resistance to the identity capable of receiving the result. Your brain is plastic. Your personality is adaptable. Your identity is trainable. And your future is far more flexible than you think. So tonight, before you sleep, stop replaying old failures. Stop emotionally rehearsing limitations. Instead, rehearse your future identity with sensory precision. Feel it, see it, experience it. Because every repetition is either strengthening the old version of you or building the new one. And if this video changed the way you see manifestation, make sure you like, share, and subscribe for more deep psychological and scientific breakdowns like this. And comment below, I am rewiring my reality. Because your transformation does not begin when the world changes. It begins the moment your brain does.